equally as passionate about people adopting different coaching ways in their lives without actually being coaches, because I believe coaching can be so powerful to create change in ourselves and in the people around us, and ultimately, in the world as well. And what the ideas I'm sharing with you tonight, they're not new, and they're not rocket science either, but they're gems that we have at our disposal that we often don't do very well, and we often forget to use. So there's two questions I'm going to look at this evening. The first is, what is coaching about? We might all be on slightly different pages in terms of our understanding of that. And then secondly, what are some of the interactions or orientations from coaching that we can all take into our own lives to improve our interactions with others? And I'm sure counselors and psychologists might say that, this could also be titled a talk for non-psychologists or non-counselors, and that's fine too, because a lot of the skills and ideas are shared. So here are two definitions of what coaching is from two of the professional bodies. So that they might be familiar to some of you. The International Coach Federation defines coaching as partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. I don't know about you, but that excites me very much. And Commensa says something similarly. They just kind of peg it down in a few more details. They define coaching as a professional and collaborative. So notice you've got the partnering with ICF and the collaborative down here, so it's very important. An outcomes-driven method. In coaching, there's always an outcome you're working towards or a goal. There's something on the horizon that you're focusing on. A method of learning, starting to see the world a bit differently, that seeks to develop an individual and raise self-awareness. And it's actually self-awareness, it's also other awareness, system awareness as well, so that he or she might achieve specific goals and ultimately perform or just do things at a more effective level in their lives. So picking up on that awareness and action bit from the Commensa definition, that's how coaching works to create transformation. So it's around helping someone to see things differently. That's the changing of awareness, so that then they do things differently. And that's what brings about the change in their lives. So it's around helping self-discovery, around reframing things that might have happened with a client, around opening up new possibilities to see things that they haven't seen before, and ultimately changing that viewing and doing. So I'm going to oversimplify. So please note my disclaimer here. In terms of looking at a few different ways in which we all can develop as people, just to help us kind of understand a little bit more of the differences between some of these ways of working. So if one is going to see a consultant, let's say you're going to learn to drive a car. And if you go to see a consultant about this, the consultant is likely going to share with you best practice research that they've done on how to drive a car. Fantastic. That's one way of doing it. Psychotherapy and counseling might typically help you understand a lot of your anxieties about driving that car and what's going on for you there. Mentoring, a mentor is going to share their best tips with you from their experience on how to drive a car. A trainer is going to tell you and probably show you how to drive a car as well. A coach is going to help you figure out for yourself how to drive a car. And that's a key difference. So this is where my curtains open on my slideshow. So in terms of some of those gems that we were speaking about, if a coach is someone who's going to help you to figure things out for yourself or help you to think for yourself, then one of the first things that we can do is be present and listen. Now, this is a reminder to all of us who are coaches as well. I mean, I know, for example, I might go home sometimes and my poor husband does not get my best listening presence at all. So this is a reminder to me as well. Nancy Klein, she speaks about how everything we do depends for its quality on the thinking that we do first. Everything we do. And where that thinking comes from is the quality of attention that those around us who are giving us attention are offering us. So one of the biggest gifts that we can give to somebody is actually to give them, our attention. And it's funny seeing your examples of Facebook and cell phones earlier. Oops. I mean, how often are we not present? Have you seen the whole slideshow? How often are we not really present? We think we're listening. We've been listening for 25 years, for 37 years, for 45 years, but we're not actually giving quality of presence to the person that we're engaging with. One of my best pieces of evidence of this is I have a miniature schnauzer called Rody, and he hates me being on my phone. If he comes to sit with me on the couch and I'm on my phone, he doesn't like it because he knows my consciousness is going into this little tiny box that doesn't even look particularly appealing to him, and he'll let me know, no, I want your attention right now. So it's around being present, not being on our phone, not being in the previous conversation we might have been in, not being in something coming up in the future, but actually being here and now with the person. So, being pregnant, your brain doesn't quite work like it usually does. And I had the same problem in Joburg, so just bear with me. And then something else we do is we interrupt a lot of the time, don't we? And it's not important that we look slick and intelligent through finishing people's sentences. What's important is what happens for them through them finishing that thought themselves. So with that in mind, the second gem is around acknowledging somebody and responding to them after they finish speaking, not interrupting. One of the things we're so good at doing in a conversation is thinking about, while they're still talking, how we're going to respond to them. I promise you'll have a response, when the person's finished speaking. So it's around just being with them and listening to them. Listening is a catalytic act. It's not just listening, because it ignites the possibility of thinking for that other person. So really it's about paying respectful attention so that they can think for themselves through things first. And then when it does come to responding, one way of responding is telling somebody what you think, right? But we do that really well, so we don't need to look at that now. And then another way of responding is through asking questions. So, what if Bob doesn't respond like you think he's going to? Then what might happen? It's opening up different ways of thinking, it's opening up new possibilities, and it's opening up how the world could be, not necessarily how we're seeing the world right now. And in asking people questions, and for them going through that thinking for themselves, it helps them to trust their own intuition and their own compass, rather than relying on what somebody else thinks out there. And just a reminder that a really powerful question is one that's asked from within a paradigm, but can only be answered by stepping out of that paradigm. Because that's what creates that shift in how we see things, and therefore how we might want to do things differently. And then another way we can respond is through offering observations. So instead of saying to someone, I think X, Y, and Z, because we've seen something that we're now interpreting, just share the observation, what you've noticed, and let that person interpret for themselves. So for example, I see when you speak about that your eyes are sparkling. Or I see that you're slumping in your chair. What does that mean to you? And in all of that kind of direct communication, it's very much about being authentic and direct. I think sometimes we create so much confusion because we aren't direct and we try to get things kind of in a roundabout way. And Julie Starr gives a lovely example where she says, if you're worried about driving on the freeway, just say, I'm worried about driving on the freeway. Not, I think we should take the longer route. It's so pretty. And if we just look at these 4 gems and we engage with people in a way that's more about them and their processing than our thinking and processing, then what tends to happen is that people start to believe in themselves more. And we know from the Pygmalion effect, remember those There was an experiment in the classroom a few years ago where they discovered that children largely responded to the expectations of the teacher. You know, they were better academically or not. And it's the same in all our interactions. And what we believe about the people we're engaging with is likely the expectations that they're going to rise to meet. So that's what coaches do, is they believe in the potential of their clients. They believe that their clients are whole, complete, resourceful and creative, and that they have all the answers within themselves, just waiting to be pulled out. And it's largely because what we believe affects how we behave in relation to that person. And when people are able to go through a process of thinking and exploring for themselves, learning to trust themselves and their ideas, then they tend to take responsibility for their thoughts more. They tend to be more committed to them. And they actually perform way better than they even thought they might at the end of the day as well. And I'm not very surprised. And the last slide is something that's actually come up quite a few times this evening about change. And that's that, you know, we can't change other people. And Maxwell Goldsmith, he's a Marshall Goldsmith, sorry, he's a coach in the States. I think he's in his mid-60s, if not actually a bit older. And he says, I cannot make the successful people I work with change. I don't try. Too many people think that a coach, especially an accomplished one, will solve their problems. That's like thinking that you'll get in shape by hiring the world's best trainer and not by working out yourself. So the change isn't about us at all. You know, it's about the person themselves. And yeah, so it's just a few ideas to go home. And I'm kind of glad it's at the end because maybe it might stick in your mind around, you know, how present am I actually in my interactions with others? How well am I really listening to this person? Am I responding in a way that I want to share my ideas and tell them what I think? Because often that's actually easier and quicker than, you know, asking questions and sharing observations. But what's best for this person? What do they need right now? And what are the gifts that I can give to them? Because I think all of us know what it feels like when we are really listened to. And it doesn't always happen as often as it could. And it is something very precious. It's a gem that we do have to share. Thank you.